Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to do my Team Sweden World Junior Championship roster predictions. Now in this year's World Junior Championships, Team Sweden is once again looking to compete for that gold medal, and after a rough loss in last year's World Junior Championship, it really begs the question, which players will we see for Team Sweden this year, and of course, what will the roster end up looking like? Now, a big thing to note before we get into this video is that with the national teams, with most of the big teams in this year's tournament, a lot of them have already revealed their World Junior Championship camp rosters, which is not the official rosters, they're just the camp rosters. So they give us a little bit of an idea of what players will be in this year's World Junior Championships, but I still have the job of you guys to predict the rosters and of course to predict every single line. Now, in this video, I'll be projecting the forward lines, the defensive lines, the goaltending, the extra forwards and defensemen, and of course, just for a little bit of fun, I think I'll go through the power play 1 and the penalty kill 1 units. But Team Sweden, honestly, this year has a lot of interesting players and a lot of interesting prospects, so first up, we'll hop in and we'll go straight to the first forward line. Now, for the first forward line for Team Sweden in this year's World Junior Championships, I first start out with Filip Hallander of the Pittsburgh Penguins on the left wing, Isac Lundestrom of the Anaheim Ducks as the first line center, and Emil Bemstrom of the Columbus Blue Jackets on the right wing. And this line, I think, has a ton of potential. I really like Filip Hallander. He was a second-round pick by the Pittsburgh Penguins in last year's draft, Lundestrom being a first-round pick in last year's draft, Bemstrom being a late rounder, I think, in 2017, but he's come a long way. Now, the big issue, I think, with this line is Isac Lundestrom, and not that he's a bad player, it's just that he isn't guaranteed to be on this team. He was invited, I think currently he's in the AHL, but we're hoping, and Team Sweden is hoping, that he'll get sent down for the World Juniors, and of course, that would pretty much make him the #1 center, as he's a very, very good prospect. Now, for the other two guys, I'm really high on Filip Hallander. A lot of you guys don't know that, but I thought he was pretty underrated going into the 2018 NHL draft, and he's had a very good season so far in the SHL. He's played very well, and I think he can get a good first line spot on Team Sweden, and he can play very well in the tournament. With Emil Bemstrom, he's a later round pick, but he's really come up in the last couple of years, and I think he'll get a big opportunity as well on this first line for Team Sweden. Now, on to the second line for Team Sweden. I'm first going to start out with Nils Hoglander, Jacob Olofsson from the Montreal Canadiens as the center, and Lucas Elvenes from the Vegas Golden Knights as the right wing. Now, this line, I think, has a ton of potential, and it's a very interesting one as well, especially for a guy like Nils Hoglander, who is eligible for this 2019 NHL draft. He's looking very, very good, and so far in the SHL, he's been very, very solid. So, he'll get a big chance, I think, in this World Junior Championships, and I'm hoping that he gets some second line minutes because I think the kid deserves it and he's looking great right now. As for Jacob Olofsson, he's had a good start in the SHL, being a Montreal Canadiens second-round pick from last year's draft. He's looking pretty solid, and for Lucas Elvenes, I think he was like a 4th-round pick, something like that by the Vegas Golden Knights, I think back in 2017, but he's developing pretty nicely, and as a little bit of an older prospect, I think he'll add some more scoring touch to this line. He's put up 7 assists so far in his SHL games, and I think that this line will mix pretty well. You'll have some youth, you'll have some other guys, but I feel like this line could really work offensively and would give Sweden another big option. Now, heading on to the third line, this one also is a very solid one, I feel. Now, for the third line, on the left wing, I have Rickard Hugg. On the center position, I have Oscar Back, a Dallas Stars prospect from the last year's draft in the 3rd round. And for the right wing, I have Samuel Fagemo. Now, for this third line, I think it has some good potential. Now, I had Oscar Back. I know that's going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion. He's probably more of a 4th line center on this Sweden team, but I had him as a 3rd line center because I think he's playing really well right now in the SHL. When it comes to the other two guys, Rickard Hugg, I think last year was his draft. He went undrafted, but so far in the OHL, he's been killing it with the Kitchener Rangers, and he's been great. And for Samuel Fagemo, he is eligible for this year's draft, and he's had a pretty good start. He is one of the more older players in this year's draft, but I feel like giving him a good shot in the World Junior Championships will definitely boost his morale, and I think he'll play well too. And this line in general is one of the more younger ones on this team. You have a little bit more unprovenness on this line, which might not work, but I feel like having these three together would really spark some chemistry. I feel like these three could really work well together, and I think Oscar Back will really drive this line. Having him as a third line center, I think is pretty solid, and he's been great so far in the SHL, and I'm pretty high on him as a Dallas Stars fan. I probably should be. Now, onto the fourth line for Team Sweden. For the left winger, I have Fabian Zetterlund, a New Jersey Devils prospect. For the center, I have David Gustafsson, Winnipeg Jets prospect. And for the right wing, I have Johan Sodergran, a Los Angeles Kings prospect. And this fourth line, I think, is a very solid one. Now, my one concern is David Gustafsson. He's been okay in the SHL. But as a second-round pick in 2018, I would have liked to see a little bit better from him. He hasn't really played up to snuff, really, and that's only my one concern because he might not be ready for this tournament. But Fabian Zetterlund, I am pretty high on him. He's played solidly so far in the SHL. And for Johan Sodergran, he's been very, very solid and is looking like a very good steal by the LA Kings. So this line has some craftiness. I feel like guys like Zetterlund can really play well in this tournament style. And of course, Sodergran has gotten off to a great start so far to his season. So when it comes to this fourth line, I think it has potential, but it also has potential to fail at the same time. Now for the extra forward, I have Hugo Leufvenius. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, but it's one of the best last names I have ever heard of. Hugo Leufvenius. It is an absolutely amazing name, and once I heard he was invited to the World Junior Championship camp roster, I thought I might as well have held on to him. He's had a good start to the OHL season. Last year, he was kind of in the same situation as Rickard Hugg. Last year was his draft year. He didn't get drafted, but so far in the OHL, he's been playing very, very solidly, and while I'm not sure if giving him a spot on the lines would be really for him, I'm going to at least put him on the roster and keep him on the roster because I think he has played well. Now, on to the defense, and when it comes to Team Sweden, this is where it gets fun. Now, for the first defensive pairing I have for Team Sweden in this year's World Junior Championships, I have Erik Brannstrom of the Vegas Golden Knights on the left side, and Timothy Liljegren of the Toronto Maple Leafs on the right side. And these two are some of the two best defensemen in the World Junior Championships. There's a lot of good defensemen in this year's World Junior Championships, but both of those guys are very, very good. I would say top 5 going into this year's tournament. And with that, Sweden is definitely in a good position. Timothy Liljegren playing very, very well in the AHL, and the same situation as well with Brannstrom. Both of those guys having massive experience, and both of those guys being a little bit older, they're going to bring a lot to this Sweden defense, and both of those guys could really lead a defense, and both of them are going to lead Sweden to anything they go towards. I think it's going to lean on these two. And for this defensive pairing, they don't just give you offensive flexibility. Both of these guys are very, very solid defensively. I would say more on Liljegren's side because he would have more experience in the AHL, going to that Calder Cup final and winning it. But even then, both these guys are very solid, and with guys like Brannstrom, they can lead it offensively. And when I just look at this World Junior Championships coming up, I'm going to be very excited to watch these two really spearhead that defense for Team Sweden right now and in the future. Now for the second defensive line, on the left as the left defenseman, I have Rasmus Sandin of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and for the defenseman on the right side, I have Adam Boqvist of the Chicago Blackhawks. Now this second unit is honestly very, very good. Obviously not as good as that first unit of Liljegren and Brannstrom, but this one can definitely hold its own. Sandin has played great so far in the AHL. I've really liked what I've seen from him, and Boqvist has been impressive so far in the OHL. So when it comes down to it, this second unit is honestly very, very strong, and it definitely is one of the main strengths of the Sweden team. It is that this top 4 is as lethal as it is. But I'm also excited to see this second unit really fly. I'm really excited to see how Adam Boqvist really performs in this World Junior Championship, how he plays. And I'm as excited for this unit as the first one, and I'm really interested in how guys like Rasmus Sandin can handle those minutes. But this second unit has potential, and while it's not as good as that first one, it still is very, very good. Now, we're on to the third defensive pair for Team Sweden, and as the left defenseman, I have Adam Ginning of the Philadelphia Flyers, and as the right defenseman, I have Nils Lundqvist of the New York Rangers, and again, Lundqvist on New York. It pretty much seems commonplace at this point, but both of those prospects are very, very solid. Ginning has had a great start to his SHL career, and especially this season, he's been playing very, very solid. And Nils Lundqvist played in the SHL last year, was drafted in the first round in last year's NHL draft, and he's had a great start in the SHL, and I think definitely deserves his World Junior Championship spot, and so far, I think that he'll get a big opportunity in the World Junior Championships. Now, as the extra defenseman for this defense group, I have Filip Westerlund of the Arizona Coyotes. He is also in the SHL. I think he has like 1 goal in 15 games or something like that. But he is still a solid prospect. I think he was drafted in the second round in last year's NHL draft. But I still think he'll get a couple of games here and there in the World Junior Championships. I think he's deserved that chance. And so far, he's looking like a decent prospect for the Arizona Coyotes. And hopefully he gets a little bit of a chance. Now, on to the goalies for Team Sweden, and for this year's World Junior Championship Sweden squad, the goaltending was a little bit of voodoo because I have never heard of any of these goalies. I'm going to be honest here, but there are some good candidates for Team Sweden, and some of these goalies are pretty solid, and I'm going to give them a little bit of credit here. Now, for the starting goaltender for Team Sweden, I'm going to have Samuel Ersson of the Philadelphia Flyers. I think he was like a 5th round pick or something in last year's NHL draft. Was not high whatsoever. But so far, I think in the Allsvenskan, he has played very, very well. I think right now he's like at a .943 save percentage, 7 in 15 games. He's been absolutely unreal. And what he's played like so far, I think he definitely gets a big chance in the World Junior Championships. And I'm thinking that he does seize that opportunity. Now, when it comes to the goaltending for Team Sweden, it's pretty even across the board. So there's no bona fide starter, but I would say that Samuel Ersson gets that opportunity. Now, for these two backup goaltenders, when you become the roster for the World Junior Championships, you gotta have 3 goalies, so I'm going to include them as the backup goalies. But for the first backup goalie, I have Adam Ahman, one of the best names in this entire thing. Ahman, it just screams something. But when it comes to Adam Ahman, he's had a solid start in the Allsvenskan as well. I think he's at like a .939 save percentage, so he could become the starter for Team Sweden. Who knows? But he's had solid stats as well. And the interesting one is Ole Eriksson Ek for the Anaheim Ducks. Now, he's a 5th round pick, I think in 2017 or something. But he's had pretty bad stats so far, and I'm not sure why he was invited to the World Junior Championship squad. I'm going to be honest there, but I'm still going to give him that chance, and I don't think I'm going to cut him. I don't think you can cut him. But when it comes to him, Sweden is giving him a big opportunity, and while he doesn't have great stats, we'll see if he can maybe get a starting job there, and I think he might compete for that. Now, for just a little bit of fun, we're going to go on to the power play 1 and the penalty kill 1. We're going to start with the power play, and for the power play, I mixed it up just a little bit. For the power play for the forwards, I had Elvenes, I had Liljegren, and I had Brannstrom, and then for the defense, I had Brannstrom and Liljegren, so for the defense, it was pretty much just the first pairing. And this power play is going to be interesting. It's pretty much going to rely on the defensemen to get anything done, because I just think up front, Sweden is just not that much of a goal-scoring team. So when it comes to their power play, it's weaker than some of the teams I've covered already, but the defense is going to be the main necessity that's going to drive their offense completely. Now, onto the penalty kill, and for the lines here, I'm going to start with Oscar Back, of course, Dallas Stars prospect, and for the center, I have Isaac Lundestrom of the Anaheim Ducks. I think those two forwards are one of the best defensive guys on the team, and I think they will work very well, especially Lundestrom, who has had NHL experience already. I think he'll play well. Now, for the defenseman, for the penalty kill, I had the 2 Toronto defensemen, the 2 Toronto prospects on the penalty kill. I had Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren. Mostly because I'm not sure Brannstrom can completely take on the defensive responsibilities. I think Rasmus Sandin has that down, so I'm going to give him that opportunity on the penalty kill. Now, on paper, Team Sweden has a pretty interesting team for this World Junior Championships. Now, my predictions for the tournament will be coming probably in a couple weeks while I finish up these videos. But when it comes to Sweden's roster, I'm really not sure how far they can go, because I think it just really goes on to that defense and how much they can really drive the play, because I just don't think that the Sweden forward group can really compete when it comes to other groups like Finland, USA, Canada, and even Russia. When it comes to that, I think they're going to rely on their defense to get points and to get scores on the board, and for that, I think they might just fall under because they're relying on their defense for so much offense. And when it comes to that forward group, while it is decent, I think it is flawed. But I honestly think Team Sweden's group is just a little bit weaker from last year, just because it needed to become a little bit weaker than last year. Mostly because a lot of that forward group has aged over and has gotten older. Guys like Pedersen, guys like Alex Nylander, those guys have moved on and have gotten to better places. And when it comes down to the forward group, I think it was much better last year, but they just do not have the star power that they did last year, and that's something that they're going to have to make over, and with that defense, they have the potential to make over with that. But I think they're going to be a kind of strategic team. If they want to get past the medals, if they want to get into the top 3, they're going to want to play a defensive game, because right now with that forward group, I'm not sure if they can compete with the big boys. But while the forward group might not be that great, I do have a lot of faith in that defense, and is honestly one of my favorites in the whole tournament. It might even be the best defense in the whole tournament. We'll wait to see for that. But with Team Sweden, I think they have a ton of potential. I definitely wouldn't call them favorites. I just think that forward group is a little bit too weak. But Sweden could surprise a lot of people, especially if they get some chemistry and if they get some clutch goals at clutch times. Now, of course, I'm going to be watching them because they're going to want a little bit of revenge for last year. Of course, getting that silver medal and having that tough defeat last year. And, of course, the guys throwing their silver medals into the stands. I remember that whole incident. It was hilarious. But Sweden is really no joke here. And they're going to want to get some revenge for that, especially against Canada on Canadian soil. This is a big opportunity for Sweden to get back at them. And of course, with Sweden, I think they're going to be a very interesting team to watch throughout the tournament. Some of those guys really interest me, like Philip Hallander, Niels Hoglander. Some of those guys I really do like, and I'm going to be watching Sweden pretty closely, or as much as I can in this World Junior Championships, because they got some players that I like, and with that defense, they could be a team to surprise a lot of people. But of course, with this video, I always want to hear your guys' thoughts. So let me know down in the comments down below. What do you think about Team Sweden this year? What do you think about the rosters? What do you think about their players? Do you see them as favorites? Do you like that defense? Do you like that forward group? And of course, where do you see Sweden end up finishing? And where do you have them ending in the tournament? Now, of course, if you guys want some more grab videos just like this one, you can watch this video where I talk about Team Canada and my World Junior Championship predictions for their team. But that is going for it, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on Team Sweden's roster and where you see them finishing in the tournament. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.